Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to John's Post-Life Crisis Live. I had kind of an unscheduled visit to Texas this weekend, and I had hoped to get some Iowa guys on to talk to us tonight, but I spent the weekend running around the state of in Texas, and I really didn't take the time or have the time to um, get anybody to come on or schedule anybody with me. So I apologize for that. But obviously the big news today is Logan Smothers will start against Iowa. As Adrian Martinez is out. You guys can go ahead and ask questions in the chat all you want. Adrian Martinez apparently suffered a shoulder injury in the first half against Wisconsin. And you kind of have to look at that and ask why he was trying to throw I think the one interception that he threw, the kind of fair catch punt interception that he threw was really frustrating. But I guess, here we are. I tell you what, running a website is like every year, and it's probably this is true for Nebraska football fans in general. Every year, it seems like it takes 83,000 years for the football season to get here, and then when it rolls around, here we are with one game left, and it certainly hasn't been the football season that we expected. Yeah, I mean, nowhere close. And it's one of the things when I started Corn Nation 15 years ago, I told myself that I'd do is that I would learn everything I could about college football. And what that meant was not necessarily play calling or schemes. I certainly have tried to learn a lot about that. But one of the things I did is I read, if you go back through college or Corn Nation years ago, I read tons of football history books. And I got used to, not just about Nebraska, but all of college football. And I'd have to say that this Nebraska team this season has to be one of the most bizarre seasons in the history of college football. It is. I know you could not plan losing this many games by one score if you couldn't do it. If you planned it, you couldn't try to do this. This literally is some kind of fate. God hates us. Maybe we should during the off season. I'm thinking that we should I'd maybe search the entire state of Nebraska for things that could be haunted or cursed. Starter jackets from the 90s. I'd start there and just, let's burn them and send me videos of you burning your old starter jackets just to get rid of the curses. Billy Joel vinyl albums. I don't know why. Why not Billy Joel? I mean, come on. You can still listen to him on like streaming services, but maybe the vinyl is cursed. I don't know. Okay. Oh my God. You guys are okay. You know what? I'll go ahead and answer this. Where is my stuff? I am honestly, I'm exhausted. What were some of your favorite college football history books? Ooh, I didn't expect that question when I actually said that I read it. There's one called The History of College Football, and I can't remember the guy's name. It's very academic. Here's the thing about early college football. There's this thing that Teddy Roosevelt saved college football because he felt that it was a manly sport and taught manliness and toughness and wanted to save the sport back when I think it was 1906, 1908, 1906, I believe. 8 people were killed playing college football because of the way they used to crush into the lines. And they would push each other and smash into each other. And I mean, it was a quite violent game. So there was a lot of concern that they should get rid of it just because of sheer death. Not because, people were getting injured, but because they were dying. And Teddy Roosevelt supposedly saved the game by insisting that the forward pass come into the game. There is a lot. That's kind of an accepted thing about college football history. I want to say a guy named John Swelling or something. He's an academic. It was an extremely dry, like 500-page book, but he contested that Teddy Roosevelt did none of these things. Uh, oh my God! You know what? I'll save this for a. We'll go right into. You know what? I will save this for an off-season topic. Are your favorite college football history books? Because there is a lot of interesting things that happen in college football, and I think I could actually go out and maybe find some guests to interview. Okay. Do you think this is the end? Let's go ahead with Rowan Berlays here. Do you think this is the end of Adrian Martinez at Nebraska? I do. I'd say yes. And the reason why I'd say yes is because I feel like it'd be best for him to move on. I feel like it'd be best for him to go. And if he's going to play another year of college, do it somewhere else. Adrian Martinez is, I think about another Nebraska football player in our entire history who's as much of an enigma as he is. And the only name that comes to mind for me is Lawrence Phillips. Lawrence Phillips was, he was one of the greatest running backs we had, but his life was such hell that he never got past the violence in his life and, ended up very tragically. His life ended up very tragic. God knows I hope nothing like that happens to Adrian Martinez. But when you look at just on the field, and quite frankly off the field with Adrian Martinez, I mean, I think you don't hear anybody saying negative things about Adrian Martinez off the field. You don't say that people don't complain that he's a prima donna. They don't, they don't complain about his attitude, that he blames other people because he doesn't. They just look at him and, it's kind of like the Wisconsin game. Almost every game this season, Wisconsin, for example, he hit some passes. He played well. We lit up Wisconsin for more yards than they gave up all season. And then he throws those 2 interceptions. One of them, I think, was Oliver Martin didn't really make a play on the ball and could have and should have. And then I think the ones that bother me the most are when we're in crunch time. And I think, again, we're going to try to, at the end of the game, we're trying to make a play and trying to make a pass. And he just overthrows it. It's like he still, after 4 years of doing this, gets excited and overthrows a guy. And we needed the yardage. He did that earlier when I can't remember who it is off the top of my head because I'm really tired. I literally got up at 3 a.m. to get on airplanes to get to Texas. This morning, got up at 4 to get on a plane to come back to Minnesota. What the hell was I saying? I remember the 3rd and 4 play. I think it was Levi Falk was open and he missed him. And then on 4th and 4, we went for a field goal and we missed that at Ohio State. Those plays have driven me insane. It isn't and then the other problem I have with Adrian is he waits a long time to make a decision. And that's the one thing about Logan Smothers. We have seen nothing pretty much from Logan Smothers. I don't know if you guys went to the spring game or watched the spring game, but when Logan Smothers was on the field for the spring game, my thoughts of the guy, my impression of the guy was that he was Mr. Improv. I know that we think of Adrian that early in his career, at least, would take off running and make some yardage. But I think Logan Smothers is capable of making very good decisions. Well, let me take that back. We don't know that. He's capable of making quick decisions. In other words, if it's there, he's going to probably throw the ball. If it's not there, he's going to take off. And he's probably not going to take a lot of time doing it. Now, the biggest problem with Logan Smothers starting against Iowa is that it's what your mom said to you. And I know your mother said this because every mother said this to every child they've ever had in human history. And the line is you should be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. And that's probably the biggest thing about going into this game against Iowa is we all love to beat Iowa. Everybody loves to beat Iowa because Iowa's just, they're hateful. They're black and gold. All the bad teams are black and gold. The evil teams are black and gold. Colorado, Missouri, evil. Iowa, evil. It's like they purposely set up. It's Purdue. Yeah, why not? They're black and gold, aren't they? Okay. Anyway, we're going to get what we asked for in watching Logan Smothers. And actually, I asked my rotten son just before I came onto this because, the rotten son that goes to Minnesota, what he thought. And he thought it'll just be a different kind of horrible for you guys. And I thought, you're a rotten son. Okay, let's look at this. John, your reaction to Vegas favoring a 3-win team over a 9-win team sort of vindicates keeping Frost, huh? Well, no, it doesn't. We could get into that. I think you favor the 3-win team over a 9-win team for the thing I've been saying about Iowa all season, which is their offense is really not very good. It's terrible. And that's one of the reasons why I would like to have one of the Iowa guys on to talk tonight about their offense, because they've switched from Spencer Petras to the Padilla kid. And I want to bring this up about Iowa. Everybody talks about Kirk Ferentz and how long he's been there, and you got other coaches like Scott Frost that have been around 4 years. But Kirk Ferentz has been at Iowa since 1853, and he can't recruit a quarterback that is consistent. And who was the kid? Nate Stanley a few years ago. We get this media stuff in the mail, right? I get a lot of media stuff, and they were putting out. I think I got a little notebook from Iowa with Nate Stanley's photo on it, and it was pushing Nate Stanley for postseason awards. And Nate Stanley made the NFL, but they were pushing him as an NFL quarterback, and he couldn't throw the ball where they shit. And it's the problem with Spencer Petras is, they're not mobile quarterbacks at Iowa, but yet they don't seem to be very accurate. And you'd think that a guy that had been around for 23 years or 30 years or whatever it is for friends and knew his identity like Wisconsin does, and knew what they wanted to do, would be recruiting higher level quarterbacks. But that's really kind of, I think, the biggest problem with their offense is they have the linemen. They have Tyler Goodson who's a really good back. They always have somebody who's a decent receiver or tight end. But then they have these quarterbacks that can't throw the ball over 10 yards really well and accurate and consistent. And that's why you favor a 3-win team over a 9-win team, because Iowa can't score. They just can't. Sort of vindicates keeping Scott Frost. I think we should be past that. We're keeping him. We don't need to get into that. But here's the thing. I guess when I looked at it, there's two things about that. And I mentioned this on the other podcast with Todd the other night. Number one, I guess we're going to keep Frost for another year, and we're going to see if he lives or dies. And if we are really close, then we should win a lot of games next year, right? There shouldn't be this excuse that we go, well, we lost all those super seniors from last year, and we have a new quarterback. We've had enough time now to build depth and build experience that we should just be replacing players with other players at this point. So we're going to keep Scott Frost for another year. And we're going to find out if he's going to be a good coach and a winning coach. We don't need these freaking excuses next year where we go, are we going to make a bowl game? Because we better make a bowl game or he needs to be fired mid-season. We'll know by 6 games in if this is working. And if it isn't, then he shouldn't even finish the season, honestly. But at that point, I would hope that the fan base kind of unites under this, okay, we're for Scott Frost or we're not Scott Frost, because I don't know why we all beat each other up so much and we treat everybody else nicely. So Scott Frost is vindicated on the fact that he gets to come back because somebody else made I think what is more of a business decision than a decision about, is Scott Frost going to be really good? That's my take on it. Let's go. Where else was I going with Logan Smothers? I think it's just going to be interesting. I mean, what if he does come up? What if Logan Smothers comes out against Iowa and plays really well and we beat Iowa? I mean, we beat Iowa like 42-10. Logan Smothers throws for like 5 touchdowns. I mean, what are we all going to think about that? Are we going to think the team rallied behind him? Are we going to think, oh my God, we could have at least? I guess my position on Logan Smothers is I would have liked to see some of what PJ Fleck does with Cole Kramer and Tanner Morgan is that he runs sets, or he has set plays, or he has like packages he has each of them run. And I don't see why you couldn't and mixed in another quarterback, especially when Scott Frost comes out and says stuff like, let's see here. Quarterback, possibly Martinez, start for Iowa. Oh, here's Scott Frost's comment or transcript from who will start at quarterback for Iowa. Logan Smothers and Heinrich Harburg are both taking reps, and we will get them ready. They have both done some really good things in practice. God help us with that practice line. Logan has done some really good things in the game. I have confidence in them. I think there is a scenario where both could play. Like maybe package plays, because Heinrich Harburg, I don't know if you watched him either. The spring game, I guess my take on him was the guy has some physical skills. He's just really raw, but he could be the guy that he could be like, I don't know, like a Tim Tebow type quarterback where you put in some packages for him running on short yardage, quarterback draws, quarterback duos, the power plays with a lead blocker that isn't called the fullback. That'd be interesting. But Frost has also said about Logan Smothers that he's ready and that he should get in the game. So I don't understand why we haven't seen him earlier. Let me go back through a few of these. Hi. No guests needed. You are the star, John. Thank you, Husker Chuck. That's very nice of you. But you know what? I'd prefer to have somebody else with me so I could abuse them. I really wanted one of the Iowa guys to come on so that we could abuse each other and you could watch. That's kind of weird saying it like that, but whatever. Reaction to Vegas. Do you think Adrian would be playing Friday? Come on. Aiden Brinkman says, do you think Adrian would be playing Friday if he sat out against Wisconsin in the second half? We don't know the answer to that question because we don't know the extent of his injuries. And I would say that at the end of the season, you get pretty beat up playing Division I or NFL football or anything like that. So, I mean, if he has to have surgery, then if he sat out, he'd probably still, I think they said he could feel clicking. So, there's probably something stretched, torn, whatever that has to be put back together. So, no. I think for once that's mean. I think that, oh man. I think that, Adrian's probably beat up enough that he can we're not going to a bowl game. So what are we playing for to beat Iowa? Because it would be really nice to end the season on that. Do you think PJ Fleck made a play for Martinez after the Minnesota game? No, I don't. I think, because Pat Fitzgerald came up to Adrian Martinez. I think if you saw the post game, Pat Fitzgerald came up to Adrian Martinez and said some stuff to him too. So I think that's just a coach getting the chance to talk to an opposing player and saying something to them after the game. I just think that happens, and we notice it sometimes and we don't. By the way, this weekend I got the chance to talk to, I shouldn't say too much. I got the chance to talk to a football player who was this is not a Nebraska guy, just so you know. He was a freshman this year for a Division I team, and his coach is leaving, and he felt like his coaches lied to him when he recruited him, and that he's played out a position which he has. But it was really kind of interesting to get some feedback from a kid that plays Division I FBS football and what they're going through and what they have to deal with. But it was really sad that he felt like his coaches lied to him and that they were just using him. I'd say this. I've talked to enough former Nebraska players and former players from other programs, Minnesota, and when you talk to the Nebraska people, by and large, they all feel like a family. They do. While a lot of them feel like they're always welcome in Lincoln, they always feel like, they could be part of the Husker family that continues for the rest of their life. And that is something special, I think, that Nebraska has done over the years, despite whatever coaches they've had, that doesn't exist for a lot of other programs. I guess that's what I'm trying to say there. Let's see. Fred Sacco. Does Nebraska accidentally win on Friday, or is this just another excruciating single score loss? That's the $84 million question, isn't it? I mean, the old joke about the frog and the scorpion, how the scorpion wants to get across the river and the frog says, yeah, but you'll sting me. And the scorpion says, no, I won't. And then halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog and they both drown. And the frog goes, why? And of course, the scorpion says, that's who I am. That's what I do. So I think at this point in the season, who is Nebraska? And what do? We really play pretty well in most of the facets of the game. And then we lose by one score. That's who we are. So maybe this weekend or this Friday, we could have, I don't know, like a curse broken. The last 2 years, Keith Duncan has come out and kicked a field goal at the last second because we ran the same defense the last 2 years. And Kirk Ferentz recognized it, and they were able to move the ball down the field. It'd be really neat is if we actually got a lead against Iowa that was a 2-score lead going into, let's say, 5 minutes left in the game. And then we ran the ball for the rest of the game. I'd be for that, excuse me. On the other hand, is it another excruciating single score loss? I think if you just say yes to that question and then you see what happens, you're not going to be as upset as if you say, yeah, we're going to beat them. And then we don't. It's all about expectations, Like when I go flying in an airport, I don't ever get really upset about what happens in airports because I just tell myself ahead of time that this is going to be a really frustrating and not horrible experience, but it's always going to be a frustrating and a drag and exhausting and miserable. And then when I go to the airport and it's not two of those things, then I'm like happy with my airport experience. Okay. What else did I write down? Oh, running backs. All right, we got Sevy and Johnson left, or more Sevy and Johnson. Sevy and Morrison left the program. You got Ramir Johnson out with an injury. Nobody knows why Jacques Yant didn't play, other than Scott Frost said it was a game time decision, coach's decision, whatever that means. And what do we got? We got Marquise Stepp, and we got Marvin Scott, a guy who I kind of like, actually. And I'm missing a guy. But, hopefully Jacques Yant gets in the game. And then Brody Belt, that's the guy I was trying to think of, who is not a scholarship player. But I guess, is that enough to beat Iowa? I think between that and the throwing, and Austin Allen has come on lately, a huge amount. And I think everybody asks about Adrian Martinez returning. None of the questions I've seen yet is about Austin Allen returning. And I would love to see Austin Allen return because I think he's an incredible football player that could help our program. I don't want to say more than a quarterback coming back, but pretty close, because I'm pretty sure he's going to play on Sundays. And I know that Thomas Fadone is waiting in the wings, although if he transfers, there you go. But I would love to see Austin Allen come back. Blaine Cole asks, has Nebraska become a pass first, run second offense? I think you go into these games and here's the thing with how your offense needs to work. I know years ago we're all about the run and running the ball, and then Tom Osborne would slowly overtake his opponents and punish them and beat them into the ground. And in the fourth quarter, all those 2-yard games became 7 or 8-yard games, and then we smashed everyone. The problem with Tom Osborne's offense that we all forget about is that if he got down by like 2 touchdowns, he couldn't come back most of the time. But I think the difference now is that, we don't have the dominance we used to with the strength program, the steroids that nobody likes to talk about a lot, the creatine, those kinds of things. Everybody has that stuff. So we don't have a dominant offensive line. Nobody really has a dominant offensive line unless your name is like Alabama or Georgia or somebody like that has all the best players that are going to go to the NFL right away. So what happens on defense is that the defense basically decides, what are we going to take away? Like in the beginning of the year, Illinois sold out against the run. And, that when it's about math, it's how many people you're putting in the box and what are your defensive alignment. And I am not as good at this stuff as I used to be before I was dead. I used to understand the play calling and the schemes much better. And I've never relearned that. But, I don't think it's a matter of being a pass first, run second offense. I think that there's things that coaches say they want to be able to do. But I think it's all dependent upon the defense and what they're going to take away. That's why you have to be really balanced and multiple to be a really successful team, unless you just flat out have all better athletes than somebody like an Alabama or Ohio State. I didn't get to watch a lot of football this weekend. I did watch. Oh my God, I watched a little bit of Ohio State. I don't know why. I mean, those guys are just the receiving core in that team is just. If they don't, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If nobody catches them this year, they're going to, and they don't win a national title this year, they're just going to destroy people like the next 2-3 years, I think, at Ohio State. Okay. I didn't really answer your question, too. Has Nebraska become a pass first, run second team, run second offense? I think it's just what they can successfully do. And I'm not answering that with a shit. I don't think we are. I think we're successful. We have really good receivers. And against Wisconsin, I think we did a good job of hitting our receivers, racking up offense, mostly scoring. And unfortunately, the defense, I'll bring up something about Wisconsin. And I want to ask your thoughts on it because you guys can chat. When you go look at, when you look at a team, if you're a guy that's an offensive coordinator or a coaching staff, and you look at what are we going to do against Wisconsin? Do you just ignore the fact that they constantly put up like 300 yards rushing on us every time we play them? And they have some guy that explodes and gets 70-yard runs? Or do you look at the game plan and you go, well, they're probably going to have at least 4 touchdowns where a guy gets 50 yards or more on each one of them. So we should probably plan to score at least 35 points to beat them. Now, see if Nebraska would have just accepted the fact that they were going to score 28 points on offense. And then they gave up 7 on special teams. But, do you do that? Or you just say, let's just cut everybody down and, here's what we're going to do and forget the past. I don't know. Sometimes I just think you look at a game and go, well, Iowa's probably going to beat us with a last-second field goal because that's what they do. Or how are we going to stop that? There's always stuff going on, so I have to answer a question from one of my writers about publishing. Allen would be stupid to stick around for one more year. Nebraska's not going to play for the big championship next year. Don't get risking getting injured. Well, we don't know that Nebraska is not going to play for the Big Ten championship. We're projecting. So, I mean, look at the Big Ten West this year and what a mess it was. Uh, and it's kind of straightened out the whole way thing that it always does. Or Wisconsin's probably in the driver's seat to win it. Uh, Iowa's going to finish second, which should be a really mark on Iowa. And Nebraska's going to finish at the bottom. I don't know how that works. Maybe we'll go from a worst to first situation. We don't know that. So I think that's about whether or not Austin Allen feels like he can accomplish something or wants to. You know what? The other thing is it's about Austin Allen getting a nil deal, a name, image, likeness deal that'll pay him enough money. They'll just go, you know what? I can wait a year to get to the NFL. And the idea about getting injured, that can happen anytime in any situation, whether you're in the pros or NFL or not. And I wonder if those guys take out insurance policies for that. Plus, I mean, put it this way. Remember where Austin Allen started this season, and against Minnesota and against Wisconsin, he's shown that he can be a really big factor in an offense. And if he has another year of that, he's going to go up. Okay. Let's go back to Logan Smothers. So we're going to get what we want. We're going to watch Logan Smothers start and play against Iowa. And none of us knows what's going to happen. The backup quarterback is always the favorite guy on any team in football, unless you're the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers. And then Aaron Rodgers says stuff, and you go, I hate that guy. Why can't they play Jordan Love? And, but the backup quarterback is always the most favorite player. And we're going to see what Logan Smothers and possibly Henrik Heiberg can do. And I think that's going to be really interesting this weekend. I would think that Logan Smothers will be fine. And our tackles will probably give up, pressure, and we'll see how Logan Smothers handles that. And maybe we'll find out that maybe he should have been in the games a little bit more than he was all season. Well, let's go with Dewey's question here. If Logan is electric against Iowa, does that seal Adrian's fate as far as coming back next year? I don't think so. I really don't. I think you look at it, any guy that's like that and like an Adrian Martinez wants to compete. And I think it's more about probably Adrian Martinez just looking at himself and saying to himself have I done everything that I could? What else can I do here? Is it time for me to go somewhere else? Is it time for me to retire from football because I'm tired of getting the shit beat out of me, which is a valid concern for anybody playing football? Or is it time for me to, I don't know, see if I can get picked up as an undrafted NFL free agent? If Logan is electric against Iowa, there's no guarantee that Logan Smothers. Listen, we lost all of our offensive coaches, okay? When you're a running back, you normally get more attached to your position coach than you do your head coach. That's not a general, that's, a lot of the times. Like the kid I talked to you about who wanted to transfer until his coaches lied to him, I said, well, isn't there anybody that you kind of felt like was looking out for you? And he said, yeah, the strength coach. I felt like the strength coach was a really good guy and cared about what happened to me. So when this season ends Friday, we have no idea who's going to be here next year and who isn't. And speculation about that is, we could lose all our running backs. We could lose all our receivers. So, and in that, a lot of that's probably going to depend upon who they hire coming in for offensive staff and how these younger players feel about them, or if they just want to go home and play, all that stuff. So I don't think any of that seals anything, really. I guess, I'm too exhausted from my traveling this weekend to make bold statements, I guess, which is kind of sad. Bradley Poppy, at this point, does anything really matter now? What? It's just like the Chicago song. Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? Yes, something matters, Mr. Poppy. Our win against Iowa would matter because two reasons that our win against Iowa would matter. Number one, we would enjoy it immensely. We would break a streak of losing against Iowa, and just as important, it would really irritate Iowa to be 9-2 and lose to a 3-9 team or 3-8 team. What are a crappy team like Nebraska? Let's bring this one up. Ralph Davis said the odds makers have knocked us down to a 1-point favorite without Adrian Martinez against Iowa. We were up 4 points. I thought it changed to us being a 1-point dog. But yeah, they did. The odds did change just because of Adrian Martinez. So, the odds makers, maybe they know better than all of us Adrian Martinez haters, guys. Is this offensive, Rowan Blaze, is this offensive line up to the challenge? Iowa has had success putting pressure on quarterbacks, running the ball. Maybe the best chance of beating Iowa is the O-line going to be able to block for the running backs. Well, there's two things there. Is this offensive line up to the challenge? No. It's not. Our tackles are god-awful. They're terrible. The interior of the line is okay, but the tackles are terrible. So are we going to be able to run the ball? Are we going to be able to throw the ball? Put yourself in Iowa's shoes right now. What would you take away? Because that's what you're thinking about right now. If you look at this and go, well, Adrian isn't playing, it's going to be Logan and that other guy who we don't know anything about. What should we do to them? Should we take away the run and force them to throw the ball? That's what I think I'd do if I was Iowa, because that's how Iowa lived early on this season. They lived on, getting interceptions and getting turnovers and scoring points off really good field position for them, but crappy field position for the other team. Why don't they play Yant more? Nobody knows. Nobody knows why they play the players that they do. I'll just say that. I don't, there's always the problem with them not, I know that Scott Frost is like, I don't want to talk about this and I don't want to talk about that. And but then when he doesn't talk about this stuff, everybody's left up to speculation. And that's why we do stuff like, well, remember Taylor Martinez years ago? He supposedly kicked the locker and broke his foot, and that was the rumor. I don't know if that was true or not, but that's the kind of shit we come up with when there's a vacuum there for questions. That's what we do. Well, I heard Yant, blah da 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 da, and then we come up with stupid, crazy stuff like that. And the honest to God answer is nobody knows. Well, let's go with this one. Eddie Rose. Hi, John. Would you like to transfer to a Mizzou fan? I love your videos. Thank you, Eddie. But no thanks on the Mizzou thing. It's just there's a problem when you get older and you don't like to change. And I spent my entire life hating Mizzou. So I can't change now. I can't because I've made a lot of changes in my life, but that's not going to be one of them. Okay, Ralph Davis comes back and says, you're right, Iowa is a 1-point favorite. So, that's how big a difference Adrian Martinez not starting in the game is made for, at least for the odds makers. I'm running out of energy here. Mark Peelan says, can we get some offensive linemen in the transfer portal? This is a thing that I think that we're just seeing, right? There's been monumental changes through the history of college football. I mean, earlier I talked about college football, and I talked about 1906. They really tried to push the forward pass, and maybe later I'll do some videos about how that changed the game and when it changed and what happened. But right now, I mean, in the year 2020, we had this pandemic, and that we don't know what the effects of that is going to be long term in our society. We don't know, for example, how it's going to affect the generations of kids when they were in school. Honestly, the kid that I talked to that I mentioned earlier, and another kid that's close to me who plays college soccer, both of them brought up the fact that the pandemic really screwed their senior seasons and screwed them. Because when they went into college, they had all these kids that still are there who would have moved out and they would have got playing time this year. And they kind of look at it and go, well, okay, we really got screwed over by this. But we don't know how that is going to affect things moving forward over the next few years. I don't think it's going to, that whole players could come back and what's that's going to do. The second thing is nil, the name, image, and likeness stuff. That's only just begun, and we really don't know what the effects of that long term is going to be on college football. And then obviously the transfer portal is something else that is a huge thing that we don't know really what the effects of that are going to be. So, it's a matter of, is this going to be more of an NFL type situation where the rosters are, you already have this thing at college where the roster turns over because people are in college and they graduate. But is this going to be a thing where it turns over even more because kids are, like the Dr. Pepper commercials, Rico's time is now, and he flies off into the transfer portal? I mean, is that going to be the attitude for college kids? And they just leave and move around a lot more than they ever did before. So, and how are you going to manage your roster? If Nebraska needs a quarterback, are they just going to be able to go find one? So that's a really kind of, who's going to navigate that and how are they going to handle it is probably going to determine who's going to be really successful in college football going forward from now on, because they're not, it's the same old rules don't apply anymore. DJ says, what have I missed here? That's a good question. Me blathering on, mostly about Logan Smothers and how stinky Iowa is. Okay. I'm 40 minutes into this. I clicked on another one and this guy comes up and it says they should limit players to 2 transfers per 5 years. I don't know if they can limit play. I don't know. You know what? I'm not prepared for that. We'll bring that up at another time because I'm running out of that. We still need to cover. Mark Peelan says, do you think Frost takes a look at Dan Mullen for offensive coordinator? I don't know. I think Dan Mullen is, he got fired by Florida. Is he going to get a job right away somewhere else? Probably as a coordinator. So maybe they would look at him. I haven't really thought about that. And again, that's probably because I was traveling a lot this weekend, and then we do have a week to think about this. Okay. Money moosh. What would help Nebraska New Year, your take? I'm guessing that says, what would help Nebraska next year, your take? I think what would help Nebraska most next year, I think there's a list. Number one would be figure out why our offensive linemen aren't very good. I think that's honestly the number one thing. Bryce Benhart was a 4-star recruit, and he looks like somebody tied bowling balls to his ankles, and he can't move his legs on pass protection. I hate to pick on him all the time. Turner Corcoran isn't doing much better. Their tackles are not playing well. So is this a matter of them just needing more development, or is this a matter of them, being good coaches, getting better coaches, or coaches that are more in line with each other? I don't know. But that's where I would start, is getting the offensive line straightened out. And part of that is going to be the new offensive staff. What would help Nebraska next year is somebody actually paid attention to frickin' special teams. Because it literally is. I know that people are screaming about we need a special teams coach, but most teams don't have special teams coaches. They have a position coach that doubles up on that. And maybe having a special teams coach would be a good thing. But keep in mind, you're always limited to, like, what is it, 10 assistants, the guys that can actually coach. So what did we lose? How many games did we lose this year just because of special teams? 5 or 6, 4, I don't know off the top of my head, but it was a lot. And, and I'm not a coach. To me, I looked at Nebraska this entire season, and it's like they still spent the season kind of going, oh, yeah, that special teams thing. I guess we should do something about that. Because it wasn't just the guys that are specialists having problems. It wasn't just because we missed field goals. We this entire season, what did we have? How many punt returns did we actually have? And what's our longest punt return on this season? And I want to say it's like 10 or 12 yards, maybe 9. That's really sad. That's sad would be an upgrade. It's probably pathetic or hapless. The fact that we never returned a punt that was a decent punt. No, it's literally like a coach on the other team said, well, we never have to worry about this part of the game from Nebraska, do we? We can just write it all off and not even think about it. So, offensive line, special teams, find out, and I think the third key is if Scott Frost finds somebody that he can trust on the offensive coordinator part and can actually turn that part of the game and the coaching over to them. And then Scott Frost pulls his fingers out of that and says, figure out to run your offense. I would, if I was Scott Frost, I'd say, here's the offense I want to run. Now go find a guy to do it. He can hire his offensive staff, and then I'm going to stand back and go, okay, you make up the game plan, and you tell me what it is, and we'll go over it together. But you're going to be playing calls on Saturday, or calling plays on Saturday. Okay, what are we doing? We're doing. Oh my God, we're up to 46 minutes, and I'm running out of time. Red Wine says we haven't blocked a punch since Terrell Farley. Yeah, that kind of stuff. That it's a whole aspect of the game that we don't even. It's like we just a third of the game we just kind of blow off because whatever. And that is part of the problem that bothers me about Scott Frost coming back. It's like you're not even paying attention to everything. I don't know. Is that fair? Yeah, I think it's fair. He's 3-8 for God's sakes. Could be 3-9 in his 4th year. That's pretty terrible. We're so close. I should leave it there. Well, Stephen Lang makes this point. To say special teams aren't crazy important, it needs to look no further than Iowa. A 6-6 team is 9-2 because we have an epic punter. And that's what they call the hidden yardage in the game. And yeah, I pay attention to it, I guess, next year. And maybe we start landing in all these close games. I think the most terrifying thing about next season is what if we go into the first game of the season, we lose by 1 score? That's a nightmare, isn't it? And then we literally have to go through all of Nebraska and all of the Nebraska alumni around the world and find what cursed objects they are. Oh, you know what? We'll go with Junebug Larry. You guys are thinking it's going to be better next year. It's all going to be worse. More young people coming in and no top returners with probably a majority of JUCO transfers. The schedule gets unbelievably easier next year. So it should be better. And they should have people that they can replace in positions. And again, we're speculating here because we don't know who's going to transfer and who's going to come back. And, if most of our skill position players stay, I think our offense will be, if we can figure out the offensive side of the ball, we'll be much better off. Okay. Our schedule. Okay. I'm running out of steam. What else did I have up here? I have nothing. Iowa. I guess I talked a little bit about Iowa. I would have, like I said, I would have loved to have the Iowa guys around. Um, and you know, I'll do a prediction video later in the week. But I think that's enough for tonight. I really am contemplating whether I do these on a weekly basis, just continue on through basketball season, just because I don't know, why not? I don't have any friends. So long like people go, hey, why don't you come over Monday night and play some bridge? Okay, I think that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. It was 50 minutes by myself again, and that's really scary. I hope you guys are doing well. You know what? This is Thanksgiving week, and you know, besides a football game, I hope you're all a lot. I know that a lot of people last year, excuse me, couldn't get together with their families because of COVID, and you know, there was a kind of a disintegration of of everything. And I hope that this year is better for everybody. And you know, I know that I'll be getting together with my kids and their significant others, and we'll have a nice meal that my wife will put together, and I'll probably stay away from. I mean, in cooking, I'm not going to help cook unless she asks me to. Okay, I'm just rambling. Listen, have a good Thanksgiving. I will put out a couple more videos this week. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all treat each other nice. Just remember to respect each other's opinions and start treating Nebraska fans. Let's all start treating each other better, because there's reasons for Scott Frost to not come back, and there's reasons for him to come back. And somebody made the decision, and that's it. Let's accept it and go on. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care of yourselves. Go Big Red. Thank you for the support.